And then, like, people like Emmett Kelly captured the moment, like I explained in the slide before. Emmett doing his famous sweeping the spotlight. You'd start big, and you start sweeping, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you finally sweep it under the rug. So he captured a really, really fun part to his routine. This is probably one of his favorite, and you'll see this in a lot of his works, his favorite concepts is the anticipation before performance. And this is at the Circus City Festival Museum, the trio. This used to hang in our Mexico house right in the living room when you walk in, and it's pretty striking, really. But he always wanted, he posed these questions with his paintings. You know, will I make a mistake? Will my wardrobe not function? Is my rigging done properly? Is our lighting right? Can I work through any pain? You notice that the one performer is rubbing her wrist. Is she just like warming it up? Is it hurting her? I don't know. This is almost pre-Raphaelite in that there is an indication that this is probably the last show of the day, because you see the snow cones on the ground, the trash and rubbish. So it's not the first performance of the day, it's probably later. I was looking at this the other day, and I go, why did he hide her face? These are so prominent. What was his thinking behind hiding her face? I don't know. Just, you know, but this is one of his favorite subjects, was the performer at the door, waiting to get in, what's going to happen. And of course, I misspelled glamorous, and I left it in because he was a wretched speller. So I thought I captured it pretty well. But yeah, illustrating the not so glamorous side of the circus, which was the workmen, all the workmen that toiled for little money, food, horrible accommodations, but the circus could not run without them. They were absolutely necessary. These all three come from different periods. 1940. I think this is here at the gallery here at the Peru High School gallery. It was one of his best. It's kind of in the Gothic style, but I think the composition, the coloration is just absolutely out of the park. There's still a sketch to the left here from 1960. I think captures the same sort of situation. Somebody asked me, what's the guy pointing to? And I said, well, that's probably the mess tent. It's fired up. They're ready to eat. You know, they're hungry. They're ready to eat. Let's get going. And then,
was that the strong man?
That is one of the roustabouts with the Cole Brothers Circus. And the reason it's called Blue Danube is because that's the music that's playing inside the tent. And so he's resting between shows, and he's picking up the blue hue of the reflection of the stripes of the tent, and you know, he's, just the way he's sitting there, you can see he's listening. You know, it's probably one of the really nice moments of his day. Okay, then I had alluded to stylistic changes a little bit earlier, but I'll go over it again a little bit. This is very early, 1937. This was one of the paintings that he did in one of the early rounds of the Challenger competition. They had to do a figural painting, fully realized. This is probably only about that big. It's a real jewel. But you can see it's very much an academic painting. The modeling of the figure, you know, the composition, everything is very much, it's like a Degas. You can see it's like a Manet painting. It's very, very similar. By 1954, when he's in his Gothic period, I think he was very influenced by Picasso in his blue period. Things become less, you know, focused. The performers in the arena, you see in the back there, they're not so perfectly, you know, painted. He's almost like a ghost, but this is a what they call the Adagio act, where they would, called, have any of you seen the Palolos, the dancer, the dance theater? It's where they actually do poses, they slow motion, they'll do like handstands in slow motion. It looks like moving statuary. So this is who this performer is, and capture that. Then later, 1973, and this is right over that wall over there on the outside, and it's part of the Peru School collection. You see how it's almost photographic. It's very detailed. Even the people, the performers in the background, very detailed. The light in the tent, very, well executed. So now he's gone truly into a documentation mission. It wasn't circus all the time. This is great. Alexandria hung them right together, and that's perfect. So it was never always circus all the time, is the point. That's my mom in the straw hat, the pen and ink. I don't know if you all can see it. I'm sorry. Has that been blocking you the whole time? I apologize.
I apologize to the person behind me.
But anyway, that was a dead tree on our farm out in Mexico. Jim, you probably saw that tree a couple times. In our barn and a similar house that we lived in. Visited the Peru YMCA. Great painting. It's in the director's office. I wish it was out so more people would see it. And then the Scrub Women is kind of a allegoric subject. It's worth looking at closely because I blew it. I did that. Go back. Go back. There's only a few more, so bear with me. See cigarette butts here around this platoon. Okay. But these are two ladies, working away, most likely immigrants from Eastern Europe, probably. But there is still circus here, because on the barn, circus posters, old circus posters. Behind the voice here, circus. He gets it in there somehow, but he's looking at the human condition in everyday life. These are Robert Weaver works of art. What do you think of that? Pretty crazy, huh? Does anybody remember when you were driving to Kokomo and you're on the north side of Kokomo, there was a big scrap yard and you saw a bunch of airplane parts, like from Grissom, I think, maybe, or something? He'd go in there and he'd get a bucket and he'd grab stuff that he thought was interesting. So this ring around the egg here is an airplane part. The bowl that the egg is sitting in was our dog's water bowl that he took. Hey, I want that. Put it in there. And then he got out his metal lathe and actually turned this aluminum egg. This is a piece of slag metal from smelting that he thought, it looks like a chicken. I said, I'm not getting it. Anyway, but yeah, this is our dog. He's always stealing stuff from our dog. This was our dog's leash that he used on the helmet here for Tin Soldier. This is like what a soldier looked at, very prolonged, excavated. And then he got into this in the 1980s. This is like when they moved to North Carolina. He was doing a lot of this, what he called circus graffiti. And I went back to that very early painting that I talked about, where the old circus posters are peeling away from the wall. So this could be like years of circus posters that build. And as each one peels away, it reveals something of the past. So it's kind of like his way of saying, oh, looking back at the past. And he liked the typography that's used in this. So, and there's a figure there. Who is that? I have a former colleague of mine who bought one of his graffiti paintings, a small one, and it had a poster of Antoinette Costello, the great flyer, was involved in one of the posters, and it was peeled away so you can see, and it says Con, and my friend's name was Connie. So she goes, it's got my name on it. So she bought it. His other love was auto racing. Nuts about auto racing. He went to his first Indianapolis 500 in 1923. Got to see Tommy Milton win. He was the first two-time winner. I put this in because it's Indianapolis 500 time here in Indiana. And he was very good at it. I'm working right now with a museum and a fellow up in Newport, Rhode Island, the Automotive Museum, and he's going to represent all of my dad's racing art for sale. So I've been going through things, and he actually got to do nice nice illustration of Saturday Evening Post, 1971, summer issue, when it was revitalized by the Survives Printing Company. The red car is Wilbur Shaw. He's battling Dutch Bauman, two of the best dirt track drivers of their era. And that's owned by John Meekum Jr., the oil baron from Louisiana that owned the New Orleans Saints football team. And he owns two of his racing cars. The mission, the method, I've kind of gone over this, but this was his process was find an image of famous wagons, what have you, develop a sketch, develop a composition, and then do a painting. Lost Parade was the first painting like this of the style, where he's showing the wagons. Red Wagon here at the Peru Art School Gallery, that's in that same series, but he's capturing real wagons as he remembers them when they were burned and destroyed at the winter quarters. And I think Regina, 1939, 1940 was the demise. Yeah. And then he became the professor in 1946, joined the Heron faculty, the school that had basically born him as an artist. He was there for about 36 years, I guess. Retired in 1982 as professor emeritus. Probably the two biggest things that he did at IU was to start the Holman competition, which was for the art students. He received a cash prize from Anton Holman Jr. himself. They were very good friends. And the students, there's a great video made for public television for Indiana called the War of the Grease Paint, meaning, the racing faction. By Allegra East was the host, and they talked about the whole competition development and what great things it did for the students of Heron. The other thing was the Indiana University Calliope pick. You guys are from the Circus City, so it's Calliope.
I'm a Calliope player.
You're a Calliope? Are you a Calliope player? Really? Fantastic. He did the IU Calliope, much to my chagrin, because I would be laying in my apartment at IU, which was right across the street from the stadium, and that thing would fire up on football game Saturdays, and my roommate and I had probably been out enjoying ourselves too much the night before. And I remember the first day it happened, and my roommate goes, "What is that? What is that?" And I said, "Oh man," I said, "it's my dad's Calliope." So anyway, but he enjoyed teaching. He turned out some great students, and many of them, he kind of went along in the steps of his mentor, Donald Madison, encouraged them to enter competitions, and they won competitions. So really great. And we're getting to the end here now. How are we doing for time? Oh, I'm way over. I apologize.
You're fine.
Okay. The spec was a moment in the circus where everybody could see all the performers parade around the arena in their costumes. It was an amazing thing. And I call this spec Fred Singer's spec, because Fred Singer was my dad's greatest patron. And it's because of Fred Singer that a lot of this art is still here. And Fred wrote a letter great gallery in the world. And he said, "You're the best painter of the circus of anybody." And so he collected over 20 works of my dad's work.
My own observation about that one, two things.
About Nick Cage or?
About the big cage.
Yeah.
When was Daniel painted? Was that painted before this?
Oh, yeah, many years before.
Because it's very similar composition. He even had one cap upside down one night.
Yeah.
And when I first moved here from San Francisco, so I'm very excited to know about his murals out there.
Oh, yeah.
But when I first moved here, I met Clyde Beatty's grandson, and he could have his grandfather's uniform.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And he could still fit into it. I have a picture of him wearing.
That's pretty
white.
cool. Yeah. No, I mean, my dad considered Clyde Beatty the greatest because, you know, he said his whole presentation was so professional, so elegant, so beautiful, you know, and his cats were always just gorgeous. The Long Mount was my dad's, he considered it his masterpiece. And because it has everything in it. You look at it, you see elements from the Challenger Prize winning paintings, the lighting, the arena, the fabric of the tent, the activity. You have to, when you look at a Robert Weaver painting, you always have to look at the background because there's a painting within a painting. There's something always going on. So he's challenging you to always look deeply into the work. And this is the last slide. Right before they moved to North Carolina to start their endeavor there, he and Tarzan Zerbini, who was an animal trainer with Carson Barnes and Cole Brothers and Shrine Circuses, had this great idea for a new kind of circus. It was going to be called Space Circus 2001 plus Infinity. And it was going to be the slickest costumes, the best lighting, the most unusual acts. It was going to be in this inflatable tent. That's why you see all the semis, these are all compressors. So he did this whole set of elevations of this tent, all the costume designs. He had a composer friend of mine from school doing a whole film score, or basically a score for the performance. And this was 6 years before Circus Soleil. So he was way ahead of his time.
What do you think he would have thought of Circus?
He loved it. He said, yeah, this is my idea. This is what they were going for. But that was done, this was done in 1978, so right before it became advertised. So I would like to thank you all for coming and sharing some time with me and welcoming me back to Peru after so many years. And I hope this has given you a little bit more insight on my father, who he was, what he did, and what made him tick, sort of. And I did do a last slide here of all the people, because I knew I would forget somebody, but particularly Patrick Redmond, who really stayed on point to get me here, and Alexandria was terrific. Marlene, we had a Zoom meeting a few weeks ago. I was up playing with the Rhode Island Philharmonic, and we got online and got this thing put together. So certainly all these great people, you should be, there's nothing you can't do. I remember my dad, when he was working the Operation Facelift effort to beautify Peru back in the, I guess it was the 70s. He loved this town. There's nothing you can't do here. I think it's a great town. You should be very proud of it and think big. There's nothing wrong with thinking big. So, thank you.
Hey.